Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Watch More Movies. I'm your host, Ricky, and today we are going to be talking about vampire movies, and specifically to start, one that released earlier this year that kind of took over pop culture and film culture, and that is going to be Sinners, directed by Ryan Coogler, taking place in early 20th century Mississippi. Two brothers return to their hometown to open up their own juke joint. Little did they know that there is something evil lurking in their hometown. Sinners was absolutely terrific, and I still feel this way months later. Michael B. Jordan plays both siblings, Smoke and Stack. Smoke is the brother that is a lot more practical and put together, while Stack is a lot more loose cannon and the suaver of the two, even though they both are very charming in their own right. The part that works for the film is that they both depend on each other. You can really feel the family dynamic within them, and Michael B. Jordan just plays this role so well, both roles. And being that same actor that plays both brothers, you never feel the shtick of it all. You feel a genuine connection of brotherhood between the two of them. There isn't a moment of plot diverging conflict between them, which is really refreshing. Lots of times in these movies with siblings being so close and at the forefront, there's something silly that gets in the way of their relationship and them looking out for one another. There isn't any of that here. And Ryan Coogler keeps us focused on the story of what everyone's going through as with the antagonistic forces at play. While it is beautifully shot and the production design feels so tangible with this southern, sweaty and hot, but also beautiful, just accuracy of the location, it doesn't work if you don't have a director who can't shoot horror and tension and feel the authenticity bleed through the screen. And Coogler obviously does just that. The fact that these vampires in the story can lurk in the shadows with little to no visual cues that they're there, but you feel their presence everywhere, is a testament to how well this is directed and performed by all the actors. And like I said, Michael B. Jordan does such a good job with this role, both roles, giving both of them distinct personalities to both of the brothers, as well as few of the scenes between them that just break your heart. He never feels like an actor playing two characters talking to each other in a way that you can tell that there was a stand-in for the other. He really sells you on these brothers and their backstory that you learn about. To add to that, Jack O'Connell is terrific as the main vampire Remick, the Irish vampire who begins defeating the town and the people attending the open night of this juke joint. He has this charm that you can almost feel like you would buy into it yourself. And at the same time, almost innocent. And then when he turns, you really feel this dread and this evil that comes from him and what he can do just with his eyes and the looks he gives. It makes you feel this inevitable terror that can keep you uneasy for the runtime. If you haven't checked out Sinners yet, although I'm sure a lot of you might have already, I strongly encourage you to see it. It is wonderfully terrifying, has a lot of heart to it, and has some really good action set pieces as well. What makes a great vampire movie to me, and something that hasn't been done consistently in the current century, aside from some of the ones I'll list here, is a sense of lurking dread in the shadows and sense of uncertainty that you're in its presence without seeing it always. Of course, traditionally, vampires can't be in daylight, but it has to be given a haunting feeling, even at nighttime, if you have a streetlight over you. The feeling that you could be scooped up right up if you walk in the wrong direction. And this first one on the list does just that, and very, very beautifully well. And that is 2016's A Girl Walks Home Alone at Night. 2016's vampire film is about a small Iranian town called Bad City, which is being under the radar, haunted by a young female vampire. We follow a young man who takes care of his father, who is a big drug addict, and it constantly leans on his son to take care of him. The vampire element is itself incredibly eerie. I love the framing of these scenes and how it is chosen to be shot in black and white. It feels like a memory of something, or even a memory or a myth of this town and what goes on in it. It gives so much more of an atmosphere and dark void to the city in this town. Some of the characters we meet want to leave this town, but feel like it's their own void, but can't leave it. There are themes here of responsibility, accountability, and desires of your own needs. The vampire we meet, who is not named, is not seeking to kill for hunger or villainous reasons. She even asks people, mostly before she decides to kill them, if they're good people and can see through them, and gives them a chance to not lie to her, so that way she can almost give herself a reason not to do it. What turns out to be an intimate story of a young boy trying to find reasons to leave his hellscape town turns into a bit of a romance and friendship between two characters who both want similar things in their lives and are trying to find that through each other. Back to a previous note, before the next recommendation, there are great scary scenes, needless to say, in all this, and all done with incredible tension. I don't think that should go unmentioned, just because it's also a really good coming of age film. This is going to be a pair of recommendations, as it is an original and a remake. It is 1985 and 2011's Fright Night. Both are absolutely terrific. The simple story for this is that we follow a young high school student, Charlie, who lives with his single mother and also has a girlfriend. One day, a new neighbor moves in next to him, and he's not quite what he seems to be to everyone else. Despite that outlandish idea, he believes that the neighbor is a vampire. These are two very fun and a great pairing, aside from it being an original and a remake. The original plays more into the comedic elements a lot, and while there is more action and darker horror in the new one. Not to say that both of them don't have either one of those elements, they obviously do, but this remake definitely has a lot more of the action and like real tense horror to it. They both also really play their vampires differently and stay true at the same time to the monster lore of vampires. In the original, Chris Sarandon plays his vampire a lot more suave and smooth with people. He can gain trust within the community and people closest to Charlie. In the remake, Colin Farrell does play suave and smooth well, but is a lot more menacing and just hungry for his prey. I do absolutely adore the practical effects in the original, in which they kind of leaned into that more for the remake, but still very effective for what they're doing. And some of it can look campy, especially in the original, but that's sort of the point and sort of the charm of what you get out of that movie. It plays itself more like a horror comedy, and it really adds that to it. Both very fun vampire films. I highly recommend them if you've never seen them. And rest in peace to Anton Yelchin. I think that's how you said his name. I really wish he hadn't left us too soon, but rest in peace. Alright, the next pairing of recommendations is going to be 1922 and 2024's Nosferatu. The original 1922 silent film holds a special place in my heart. It was shown to me in film class in high school, and it was one of the first films I can remember that genuinely got under my skin. It has always stuck with me, and while I can't say I remember it too vividly, the entire thing, even though I just did rewatch it, so before recording this, I guess, I do remember the atmosphere. It is something that has this image in your head you can't get out of, due to the character design and the framing of the haunting that he has over the main character in his castle. Cut to the rise of modern horror filmmaker Robert Eggers, who bursted onto the scene with 2015's The Witch, 2019's The Lighthouse. He had talked about and reportedly been working on a remake of the 1922 film. Given how much I love both of his first films, as well as 2022's Northman, I was ecstatic. He already has such a European old Gothic style that bleeds through his first three films, all set in different time periods, so I just had this feeling that it was just a perfect marriage of the two. And aside from one or two other movies in recent memory, this was my most anticipated for as long as I can remember. Starring Bill Skarsgård as Count Orlok, Lily Rose Depp, Nicholas Hoult, Aaron Taylor Johnson, we follow a very similar story to the original. Thomas Hutter, played by Nicholas Hoult, travels to meet with Count Orlok, a prospective real estate client. While he's gone, his wife Ellen is left ill with their friends. She comes down with an unexplainable illness where she, to their eyes in this olden time, is acting crazy or mental, and she's seeing visions and nightmares to which Orlok has infected her mental state. This remake takes a lot more liberty with the story, and it earns that. You get a lot more out of the character of Ellen, who was barely in the 1922 original film, and while we follow Thomas, the story really is on the journey of Ellen and her character arc. Thomas is sort of secondary and a driving force for the plot, while the atmosphere and dread is all present here. and Skarsgård count is something terrifying on its own, this film is about a lot more than horror or dread. It's about what many vampire films have done before. It's about connection and desires within ourselves that we find scary or foreign to us. What's perceived to be terrifying, especially specifically in those times, is something that is not so much maybe today. Your own autonomy and self ownership of what your desires are and the things you want, and trying to navigate your own journey through those things. As a vampire film itself, both Nosferatus are definitely up there and steer away from less of the campiness that others have done since the subgenre exploded. I highly recommend these. They weren't huge hits as far as when they came out, both of them, but if you haven't seen them, I very much recommend them. Alright, so the last one is again going to be another pair. It is an original and a remake as well. It is 2008's Let the Right One In and 2010's Let Me In. The story is the same for both. It's about a young boy who doesn't have many friends and has had a rough family life, and one night, he befriends a little girl who moves in next to him at his apartment complex. We soon discover that she is a vampire. I really love the original, and I still do think the remake is really good. The original plays itself less for tension, although there is some great horror stuff in there, but it definitely leans more in its story structure as a coming of age film. The young boy is going through the hardships of school, being bullied, and living in a broken home while he tries to find friendship and companionship in this little girl he meets that can see him as a friend and not a spectator in his own life or a punching bag. She builds his confidence up and really helps him come into his own. While on the other side of the coin, he helps her realize she's more than a monster and capable of being loved for who she is and having someone who cares for you aside from your material conditions and what you've done before. And these are all very mature things to put on children, and it really does so beautifully. Both of these films, the original and remake, are definitely scary in their own right. The original has this European flair and slower pace that takes its time and lets the camera sit within its environment and lets you play as a spectator watching these scenes unfold and terrify. The remake puts you up close to everything happening and has a great scene inside of a car that was not in the original but still worked on its own and has a lot of thrills and it was a lot more fast-paced and exciting than the original is. Fun tidbit that I completely forgot, the remake was directed by Matt Reeves, who had just directed the original Cloverfield at that point, and then proceeded to make the second and third Dawn and War of the Planet of the Apes, and the most recent Batman, which I thought was just a cool little tidbit. I really think these both work on their own, but the original does have an ending that has a much more emotional payoff than I expected, as well as just incredibly violent and with minimal flashiness to it, which I absolutely adored. Alright, so that was about Sinners and other vampire films I hope you do check out if you're interested. Sinners is on HBO Max. A Girl Walks Home Alone at Night is on Canopy and the Roku channel. Let the Right One In is on Prime and Tubi. Let Me In is on Tubi. Nosferatu, the original, is on Prime Video, Tubi, Canopy, and the remake of Nosferatu is on Prime Video. The original Fright Night is on Tubi, as well as the remake being on Tubi and Peacock. The next episode is going to be another horror-related topic. I don't really have anything quirky or quippy to add to it, but it's a fun little subgenre into horror. And then I am working on a fun episode horror-related for the end of the month. 2 of them, actually, so I hope those can get out to you guys. Thank you for tuning in today. You can keep up to date on the show on Instagram at PodWatchMovies and on Bluesky at watchmoremovies.bsky.social. Please subscribe. It's on Apple, YouTube, or Spotify. The show's link tree is on both Instagram, Bluesky, as well as anywhere you can find the show in the description. So check out on all platforms. And if you missed an episode, feel free to check out. They're all up as well. And until next time, watch more movies.